Imagine a program that's supposed to feed hungry kids. Now, what if I told you that hundreds of millions of dollars from that very program might have been funneled to fund a notorious terror group? Well, that's the unbelievable accusation at the heart of a massive scandal we're digging into today.
It is a truly shocking question, isn't it? And it's at the center of this huge case unfolding in Minnesota. The biggest question is how? How on earth could a program for children allegedly turn into a pipeline for terror funds? Let's break down what our sources are saying.
So, first, let's get right to the most explosive part of this story. This isn't just about financial crime. This is the detail that takes a local fraud case and blows it up into an issue of international security. And there you have it, straight from federal prosecutors. The claim isn't just that some people got rich off a scam. No, the allegation is that the stolen money had a final destination, a designated and very dangerous terror group. And listen, we are not talking about some small, unknown group here. Al-Shabaab is a major al-Qaeda affiliate, responsible for absolutely horrific attacks. This is the group that prosecutors allege benefited from stolen U.S. taxpayer money. So, to really understand that terrifying accusation, we first have to look at how this alleged fraud even worked. And let me tell you, the sheer scale of it is just staggering. $250 million. Just let that sink in for a second. $250 million that prosecutors say was completely siphoned away from Feeding Our Future, a program meant to put food on the plates of hungry kids. And this wasn't the work of just a few people. We're talking more than 78 individuals indicted, and what prosecutors are calling one of the largest pandemic-related fraud schemes in the entire country. And get this. You'd think a $250 million heist would be some complex, high-tech operation, right? Nope. Listen to how one commentator described it. It was brazen and primitive. Basically, so simple it was audacious. So here's how they allegedly pulled it off. Billing for phantom meals. Just look at these examples. One restaurant claimed it was serving 5,000 meals every single day, 7 days a week. In another case, a defendant was in a town with a population of 3,000 people, but claimed to be feeding 6,000 of them daily. I mean, the math just doesn't add up. And according to the sources we reviewed, this wasn't some isolated incident. They point to a similar pattern in another state program where costs just exploded from under $3 million to a projected $122 million in just 4 years. For some commentators, this isn't about a few bad actors. They see it as a symptom of a much larger systemic failure. Well, you can probably guess that a scandal of this size didn't stay a local story for long. It quickly erupted into a national political firestorm, pulling in some of the biggest names in Washington. And the political divide here is just stark. On one side, you've got Representative Ilhan Omar, who actually represents the district where a lot of this took place. She argues there's zero proof of a terror link and says it's wrong to blame an entire community for the actions of a few. On the other side, you have former President Donald Trump, who uses the scandal to claim the community is ripping off our country and even promises deportations. But beyond all the political back and forth, commentators in the source material offer a much deeper, more ideological critique. They argue this whole scandal reveals some fundamental flaws in how the system itself operates. So, to explain the why behind all this, some commentators we looked at point to this specific idea, the salad bowl theory of multiculturalism. The idea is that unlike the classic melting pot where different cultures blend into one, the salad bowl model sees groups coexisting side by side but staying culturally separate. Now, the critique of this model, according to some of these commentators, is pretty severe. They argue it can lead to what they call parallel societies, where trust in the government is really low. And in that kind of worldview, they claim, taking money from what's seen as a hostile government might not even be viewed as theft, but as a form of justice, what they actually call restorative plunder. This whole critique then culminates in a term that one commentator coined narco-tyranny. Their argument is that it creates this kind of two-tiered system, one that's incredibly harsh on ordinary, law-abiding citizens, but is supposedly powerless to stop major crimes committed by what they call politically favored groups. In all of this, the fraud, the politics, the ideology, it brings us right back to where we started, the alleged and terrifying link between this domestic fraud scheme and a very real international threat. So let's follow the money as laid out by the sources. It starts with U.S. taxpayers, it flows into the child nutrition program,
Then it's allegedly stolen and laundered by these fraud rings, transferred overseas, and ultimately ends up in the hands of al-Shabaab. Now, a key part of that final step, according to these sources, is the hawala system. It's this ancient, informal money transfer network that operates completely on trust. It exists totally outside of traditional regulated banking, which makes the money incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to trace. So here's the crucial takeaway. What started as a failure of oversight in a domestic welfare program allegedly grew and metastasized into a direct threat to our national security. It effectively turned American taxpayers into unwitting financiers of a terrorist organization.
One commentator from our sources puts it in incredibly stark terms, calling this passive treason. The argument is that by allowing this to happen, the state has failed in one of its most basic duties, protecting its citizens from their enemies.
And that leaves us with this final critical question. When a system fails this spectacularly, on this scale, who is ultimately responsible? Is it just the individuals who committed the fraud? The administrators who failed to see what was happening? The politicians who created the policies? Or, as some of our sources argue, is it something deeper, the ideology that allowed it all to flourish in the first place?